It's 7:01? Okay. All right, let me start reading the intro to the agenda. So again, good evening, everyone. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20 of the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposed that may gather in one place. The meeting of the Select Board will be conducted via remote participation. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the open session portion of the meeting may do so by viewing on Dalton Community Television on channel 1301 or via Zoom. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the open session portion of the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or the comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So let's go ahead and call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. And let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Boyle, if you can lead us in the pledge, that would be wonderful.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Go ahead with, we're going to go with roll call. Mr. Boyle, or
Here.
Can you call roll call?
Yeah, I can do it. How about Chair Joe Dibber?
Yeah.
Robert Bishop?
Here.
John Boyle?
Here.
And our town manager, Thomas Hutchison.
Here.
Excused is Dan Esco and Mark Strout.
Great, thank you, Brittany. So next on the agenda is the minutes of May 24th, 2021. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
No,
Go ahead, John.
is that supposed to be the 26th?
No, 24th is a Monday.
Okay, you talking about May?
Yes.
Okay, I was thinking that one we had all. Okay.
Okay. I make a motion we accept the minutes from May 24th, 2021.
Second.
It's a motion, a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Public address to the board. This is a time when the public may address the board on any items listed on the meeting agenda or any issue or matter of the town. If you intend on addressing the board at this time, we ask that you do the following. Use a Zoom link or dial 684-6111, extension 28. Please identify yourself by name, address, or the company institution you represent. The public address to the board segment will last no longer than 30 minutes. Please make your comments concise and try not to repeat statements made by others. Please address your comments to the board chair. Discussion or debate on any issue may not take place at this time. The chair or the designee may answer questions on procedural matters. Please be cordial and respectful of others. If anyone wishes to be recognized when the board discusses an agenda item, please make that request at this time. The board chair may grant this request. Address comments to the board chair and please be concise. Anyone from the public wishing to address the board? Okay, seeing none?
Hey, Joe, Mr. Chairman, I had a call this afternoon from Ben Bowman, and he was going to try to make the meeting. He would like to speak on the recycling portion when Jane does her update, if he makes it to the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bishop. Move number 6, the appointments. Mr. Hutchinson.
First, we have for the Berkshire Regional Transit Authority, I hereby recommend for your ratification the appointment of John Boyle, a member of the Dalton Select Board, to the position of Berkshire Regional Transit Authority Board Representative for fiscal year 2022. John's term will expire on June 30th, 2022. And I'll note that he has served as our representative to this position for some time.
Okay, I make a motion to appoint John Boyle to the Berkshire Regional Transit Authority Board. And his term will expire on June 30th, 2022.
I can go ahead and second that as well, yeah. Motion and second, discussion?
Thanks, John, for doing that.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely, thank you, John.
Hey,
Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
I'm a yes, and Mr. Boyle?
I don't know, should I abstain?
No, you can vote for yourself.
Okay.
All right, yes.
Again, thank you, John. Mr. Hutchinson, back to you. Next one.
Yes, and I'm afraid there was some confusion in this office, in my office about this. There are actually two positions. One is an appointment to the Metropolitan Planning Organization of the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, and that is John Boyle. And the second is a recommendation to the Technical Advisory Committee of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and that is Dan Filio. So I make both of those recommendations at this time, and I'm sorry that we didn't have that spelled out for you earlier.
No problem. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Dan to the Berkshire Regional Planning District Council,
That's the Technical Advisory Committee.
Technical Advisory Committee.
Tech, yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. And then thank you, Mr. Filio.
And it's my understanding that we are also due to appoint a representative to the Metropolitan Planning Organization itself, and that John Boyle has been serving in that position as well.
Well, Tom, if I may correct you.
Okay, please.
This guy, I realize this alphabet soup and all these is very confusing, but there is a delegate, I don't know if it's by statute, to the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, and that's chairman of the planning board. A member of the board or anybody can serve as alternate, and that's what I've served at in the last term. So if you're appointing me, you're appointing me as alternate rep to the BRPC.
Oh, okay, that is a position that I was not aware we were appointing to. I was going for the representative to the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO.
Well, again, Tom, that in itself, I am currently the representative. You are correct, but that's an elected position, and I am elected by a consistorum of 6 towns or 7 towns in northern Berkshire. And the term comes up every 2 or 3 years, and they have an election, and basically whoever shows up gets it. So I don't think my term for that is up, so there's probably no necessity of taking any action on anything further in this line.
Yeah, okay, I think that's good, and we can review the BRPC appointments for next time.
Yeah, check out that alternate. I
Yeah.
don't know when the term's up. That could be up this year. Okay, thank you.
And I also do not have any paperwork for the Housing Authority. I don't know whether you got it, but I did not get a copy of the Housing Authority appointments.
I got one.
Okay. If you could proceed with those recommendations, I'd appreciate it. I just don't have it in front of me.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, you want me to read it or do you want to read it?
Go right ahead, Mr. Bishop.
Okay, this is to the Select Board from Thomas Hutchinson, appointment of Doreen Middlebrook to the Dalton Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. I hereby recommend for your ratification the appointment of Doreen Middlebrook as a member of Dalton Housing Authority Board of Commissioners for an initial term to expire on June 30th, 2022.
Second.
The motion right on the second. Any discussion?
Now, Dory will serve that position very well. She's a great lady.
Excellent. Roll call vote, Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Next one, Mr. Hutchison, the constables.
Yes, and I think you got an extra piece of paperwork here that we'll cover next, in the next meeting. But for the constables, I respectfully request that Officers Anthony Baroli, Trey Ballardini, Joshua Bradley, Tyler Miller, and Animal Control Officer Greg Elser be appointed to the position of constable to assist with town warrants and posting. These officers are full-time officers residing in the town of Dalton, and Animal Control Officer Elser will be able to serve his summons if necessary.
For a motion?
Sure. I make a motion, we appoint Officers Anthony Baroli, Trey Ballardini, Joshua Bradley, Tyler Miller, and Animal Control Officer Greg Elser to the positions of constables to assist with town warrants and posting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Now, the last one, Mr. Hutchison, the Emergency Management Advisory Council.
One second, please. Yes. I hereby recommend for your ratification the following appointments to the Emergency Management Advisory Council. Daniel Filio, Emergency Manager. Myself, Thomas Hutchison, Town Manager. Gerard Kalan, Dalton Fire Chief as Assistant Emergency Manager. Deanna Strout, Dalton Police Chief. Jane Smith, Board of Health Agent. Sandra Albano, Town Accountant. John Ruffley, Dalton Highway Superintendent. Robert Benlian, Dalton Water Department. Gabby Taglieri, Dalton Communications Director. Pat Pettit, Dalton Buildings and Grounds Manager. Kelly Pitsey, Council on Aging Director, as a representative from the Council on Aging. Jason Dion, CBRSD, and Scott Baker, Crane Currency Director of Environmental Health and Safety. I'll have a further nomination when the town planner position is filled.
Great, thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
Just a note, Mr. Chairman, that on your list, Tom, there's a Gerald Cahalan. That's the fire chief, and it's my understanding he has retired, and they're looking for an appointment. But I also assume that when they do find an appointment or a new chief, he will take Mr. Cahalan's place on the Emergency Management Committee.
Thank you, and I was wondering if that was Callahan, and it's just...
Cahalan.
Cahalan.
Okay.
It is Cahalan. All right, thank you.
Okay, motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right, Mr. Hutchison, thank you for those appointments, and now we're moving on to the special town meeting warrant.
First, just a few technical corrections suggested by the town clerk. And the address where we're supposed to meet 35 Fox Road in Dalton, MA. I've spelled that out and put Monday, June 28th, 2021 at 7 p.m. on a new line. So it now reads Dalton, Massachusetts, and then Monday, June 28th is on a new line. That was just a typographical error. And the town clerk also suggested that Robert W. Bishop Jr. be styled vice chairman, who I had down as vice chair. So with the town clerk's recommendations, those are the changes that I have from the warrant we've been considering. The first article is to receive and grant the Select Board the authority to spend from Chapter 90. The second article is for the town share of a grant, the town matching share of a grant for designing and engineering hydrology solutions for Walker Brook. The third article deals with several capital expenses. The fourth article has to do with the renovation of Town Hall, including the removal of asbestos and the temporary relocation of offices while that asbestos abatement is going on. Article 5 is the payment of a bill from a previous year, just a few $100s. We missed submitting that last year. The Article 6 is to provide funds for a consultant to revise the town's job descriptions, classifications, and compensation plan. And the last article, Article 7, is to amend the operating budget passed in May to include necessary action regarding recycling, which we can hear more about from the health agent during her update. This has been reviewed by Town Council. I believe you've all seen it before, and I am pleased to present it to you, and it's in that amended form as a final version for your approval.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the warrants as presented.
Is there a second? Motion is second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just one question. Is the deadline passed to get an article on the warrant?
I'll defer to Ms. Hutchinson.
Well, this is the last regular Select Board meeting. Next Monday is too late, which means that the Select Board would have to meet either on Wednesday or Thursday night for a revised version that had been reviewed by Town Council.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring this up, Mr. Chairman and Bob, it's almost 2 years, maybe a year and a half, when the Select Board voted unanimously to place, I think there's 4 parcels of APR encumbered land up for sale, and at the price of $1,000 per acre at the suggestion of the chairman. Now, what happened to this? Nothing happened to it. So doing some investigating myself, what happened? How come it didn't go forward? And it's brought to my attention that it has to be approved at a town meeting because it's a sale of town property. Now, I wish this came up further. I wish I'd known this before this, but if we don't do it now, we're probably going to not be able to do it till next spring. So, I mean, and I understand the position we're in. And I just thought I'd bring it to the board's attention and see what their thinking was.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes, we met with Dickin, well, just before, about right after we made an offer to Tom, and we decided not to push it forward. Dickin is he really wants this land to go through. But, it has to go through, according to Dickin, some kind of agriculture person down there that can sort out what we can really do. It's so complicated, John. It's gonna take a lot of lawyers here. And we're not in no position to do that yet. And
But yet we voted it.
yeah, I know, but we didn't wanna go ahead with the
I
SNP.
mean, nobody told me it wasn't gonna go forward because of Dick and Crane. Who's Dick and Crane? He's not a member of the board.
It had nothing to do with Dickin.
Okay, well, I don't know if you sat in on this, Bob, but I sat in on the conference call, the top people at the Department of Agriculture.
No, I wasn't there, John.
No, it was 5 lawyers and one on our side. They had 5 lawyers, we had 1, myself and Ken Walton. And they are opposed to us selling this land because it's supposed to be devoted to agriculture. And, well, that's the reason we want to sell it, is to get it back on a tax roll for agricultural use.
Mr. Gold, would you like to make a motion to amend the town warrant, and then if that passes, that we then have a special meeting this week?
Joe, just let me just say one thing further. Is it possible at this meeting right here, we could vote to put that on here, an article, and not have a special meeting?
I would suggest that we probably need to have an open discussion about the topic, potentially, unless we go back and there's something on record that we already agreed as a board. I don't recall it. Might have been
Yeah, well, I mean, Bob does, and we certainly did it. It was his suggestion of $1,000 an acre. And we voted, and it just probably got caught up in the turmoil of the police thing, the town manager leaving, on the back burner on somebody's desk or something, but nobody ever moved it forward. And the reason it's not moving forward, yeah, the Department of Agriculture definitely opposes what we're doing. I've been through that ringer. I know all about it.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's why we voted to do that night.
Ken was in favor of selling it. And we all agreed.
It sounds as though there might be some second thoughts, though, Mr. Bishop?
No, I just assume move it, but we want to do it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. I mean, but as I pointed out, if we don't do it now, it probably the next town meeting will be next spring.
Is there a rush to it? Because if we can wait till next spring, I mean, I'm not hearing any type of rush situation, but I would like to have, if we're going to add it to the warrant, I'd like to, as we have discussed every topic, to have an open discussion about the topic on the warrant.
Yeah, I'm not pushing it, but I don't know if you recall, Joe, you may not have been on the board. And Mr. Crane came to the select board, and he said he was very interested. And would we consider putting it on the market, or request, also the other avenue was to request proposals. And we voted to put it on the market at auction for $1,000 an acre.
Well,
hey, I don't want to rush you guys into this.
We can certainly work on it. I can work on it and get it to a point where it's ready to take to town meeting, because we're ready to move forward, and we can always call a special town meeting to do that.
Yeah.
That's probably the best. That's probably the best way.
Yeah, the other thing, John, that's complicating this too is the inclusion or not inclusion of North Mountain Park. And
Oh, we didn't include that.
no, but
We only included the APR things.
right.
But I think we need the right of way to North Mountain Park, and I just don't know all the details, so I wouldn't feel comfortable supporting that into the warrant now until we know the rest of the detail and get it ready.
I'm not advocating that, Joe. We may want to rescind our vote and start all over again.
Yeah. So,
All right.
how about if we have do we need a motion to have Mr. Hutchinson do that work to get it ready for review for a warrant?
I'm happy just to go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Yeah, at some special town meeting down the road. We may need one to set the tax rate or something in the fall.
It's great to bring it up because it's been out there for a while.
It's been long overdue, absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for that discussion, and thank you for bringing it up, Mr. Boyle.
Yep. And I think we're at the point of just voting on what,
Yeah, we had a motion, we had a
well,
second.
voting
we
on
had a
approval of the
discussion.
warrant as it stands.
Yep, we had a motion, we had a second discussion, so now it's roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And Mr. Hutchinson, I believe Jane is in the waiting room, and I believe Mr. Filio might be there as well. I just got a text from her a little bit ago as we're in the middle of this discussion.
Got it. Sorry about that.
No worries. And now we're at number 8, the health agent update. And Jane?
Oh, yes, thank you so much. Let me just get situated here. And so hi, I am pulled over on the side of the road, so no worries there. So I believe that there's 3 things on my health agent update. I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I wanted to update you on solid waste, I believe is one of them.
Yes.
I believe one of them is a recommendation from the Board of Health for face coverings.
Yep.
And then I'm not sure what the third one was.
Yeah, the third one is expansion of outdoor liquor. And time for an event.
Great, so I'll start with that one. So as you might recall, last year around this time, the select board had talked to, we had talked about that the state was allowing expansion of liquor licenses to go outside of the footprint. So the footprint of the building. So like right now, if someone wants to have an outdoor event, they have to go through a permit process where we all sign off and the town manager is able to grant those one day. What this would allow is for facilities to go ahead and have their liquor license be outside as well, as long as they were able to show that they were protecting the public health and making sure that, you know, like alcohol wasn't accessible to minors and whatnot. What I'd like to, the Legion and the VFW, I've been in contact with both of them, and we are pulling together a plan using the same paperwork that was issued to other facilities earlier on in the pandemic. What has changed is that as of June 15th, the state of emergency is no longer going to be active, and the governor's office has extended that to, I believe, the end of November, that places still can receive this kind of extension of their dining area. So what I'd like to propose to the select board is get their feedback on whether or not they want to extend the existing permits that had gotten the permits previously, and whether or not we could accept new applications from, in particular, the VFW and the Legion come to mind, and similar to earlier in the pandemic, allow the town manager to ultimately issue those extensions. So that's a question that I have for the select board, and I believe that you'll be talking about it when you open up as the licensing board. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing had to do with, obviously, the governor's most recent guidance is that indoors and outdoors, unmasked people can, or people who have been vaccinated can go and conduct their business unmasked, even when they cannot maintain social distancing. And so and I believe that the select board was part of the last email blast, which is basically telling places of business in town, you know, what the guidance is, that if fully vaccinated people are no longer required, and it is to wear face coverings, but that the mandate for masks has changed to an advisory that if you're not fully vaccinated, that you strongly recommended that those people wear face coverings. And so what I wanted to talk to the board about is how this applies to the town of Dalton. And the Board of Health just met. I'm on my way home from that meeting. And what their recommendation is for the town to continue to follow the governor's guidance, similar to how we have the entire pandemic and state of emergency up to this point. At the very least, for unvaccinated employees, what that would mean is that they would be strongly recommended to wear face coverings when they weren't indoors, when they're not able to socially distance. And that's the recommendation. I know Tom and I had spoken after the Board of Health meeting. And so that is something that the town will continue on, whether or not they're going to make any requirements above and beyond that, that advisory from the governor. So that is that. Also, the question was, can we meet in person? The Board of Health did meet in person tonight, and I think that we need to work a little bit on the conferencing situation so that people can hear and be heard. And actually, we had a pretty good meeting. It was kind of piecemeal together, but Pat had bought some cameras that worked really well, or speakers, or microphones rather, and then I hooked up some speakers and everyone could hear everyone else. And so that's very promising. The only thing is that if we start having in-person meetings, just making sure if there is a Zoom option, just that it gets posted, that it is an in-person meeting and that there is another way for people to participate that don't feel comfortable being in the room. So that's kind of that. Do you want me to pause so we can talk about it, or just go on to my third thing?
Well, let's pause on the get a little feedback here. So let's see. I'll make it back. Anyways, I'm getting some feedback. Anybody else getting feedback?
No, but I can hear your headphones.
Okay, let me try that. That's better. Okay. Let's pause and just have a conversation around the mask decision in following the governor's guidelines. I'm not sure, do we need a vote on that? Because I think we took a vote a while back to let the town manager and the Board of Health agent implement policies for COVID as needed. But happy to take a motion if anyone thinks we need to take a vote.
Well, that's what we did, Joe. We put it in, we let the town manager and Jane take care of it.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, okay, I did have that as agenda item 9 directly after this, as a discussion of the board, because I think somewhat of a discussion would be useful, especially with the recommendation that we continue the option for people to attend remotely, which, as we heard, is somewhat clunky. I'm not sure we have the whole thing nailed down, but it would certainly be possible for people to call in and or be on Zoom on audio without necessarily getting the video as well. But we can discuss that after Jane finishes her update, because both this one, rescinding the state of emergency, and expanding the liquor license for outdoor serving are on as separate agenda items for the board.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Substance. That's fine. Thank you, Jane. Go ahead, next one.
So the last one has to do with the solid waste update. So the subject of solid waste is something that it will be tackled this year and is a really important thing for the citizens of Dalton for us to tackle. So obviously we have the solid waste committee, and we had kind of gotten to a standstill when it came to final implementation of the regulations. So we have, as a town, passed regulations requiring haulers to provide recycling, and there's some provisions in there that were part of the grant, and which include things like bundled pricing, so that haulers have to charge customers the same as if they're recycling versus if they're not recycling. There's an education component asking the haulers to hand out education that the Board of Health has pulled together. And then there's also some provisions in the regulations that talk about, that there has to be a enforcement structure. And so we've been working pretty closely with the haulers and have identified some issues. The biggest issue that has happened is that we have an unanticipated larger fee associated with tipping our recyclables at the Pittsfield plant, which was determined about a year ago that was the route we were going. And things have really started to shift towards seeing what we can do with our transfer station, working with Casella to enact the provision in the current contract that allows the haulers to tip at the transfer station on a Thursday when it's not open. And so tonight, it was a topic of our agenda, the grant. We had gotten an extension from DEP to start the full implementation of the regulations starting July 1st, anticipating that we would be able to tip at
Jane, you're frozen.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, the video, it might be too much to have both going on, so I'm just gonna finish speaking without actually having my camera on, if that's okay. So tonight at the board meeting, it was really time to set an implementation date, and we talked about a lot of the things, the concerns that the haulers had, including a much higher fee tipping at CEP through Pittsfield than we had anticipated. And it was decided at the meeting that we were going to ask DEP for another extension on the grant so that we can really flesh out and make sure that the haulers, that this is a feasible option for them. I mean, there's obviously the tipping fee and the operational costs, but the other thing that we hadn't thought about was the fact that labor shortage, and it's not that easy to just say, oh yeah, I'm just going to go hire someone right now, because there is as we know, real places are having a really hard time filling positions. And so we've asked for the extension, and what that means for the town is I think I think that what I'm hearing from the town is that we are committed to providing a way for our haulers to recycle. And so we're going to work with DEP to see if they'll expand the grant, but whether or not they expand it or not, we are committed to finding out what it's going to take at the transfer station for haulers to tip, and then try to move forward the best way we can. And as probably is also on the agenda, if you haven't talked about it already, is that's where that warrant at the special town meeting will come into play. Is that will give us funding to help work out these details. And so we thought that tonight we would have a clear path forward. I think the Board of Health really wants this to work. We all want it to work with the haulers, and so we're going to ask again for a little bit more time and see if DEP will do that. Our primary concern is making sure that we can keep our recycling coordinator, who is filled with Mary Stucklin. She's very knowledgeable, and she has the relationships to get this done. And so we're just going to try to figure out if there's a framework that we can be competitive with the other opportunities that exist out there for someone like her. So that's where we're at. And I know that Ben Bowman at the beginning, is he in the meeting at this point?
He's not yet, but Mr. Hutchinson, can you check later on just in case he did come back? Just come in.
Joe Derwin is on.
So, I think there was a lot of anxiety for some of the haulers. It's just, and we want this to work, and we just want to make sure that we're doing it in the way that's in the best interest of Dalton and its citizens and its small business owners. So,
Jane, I have a question.
Yes.
What is all this, recycle?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I'm getting feedback.
Put yourself on mute, my questions, with your channel.
Okay,
Go ahead, Mr.
try now.
Good.
Okay, where does all these recyclables end up? I mean, before the haulers collect them here, they go to Energy Answers or whatever they call it, and it turns into steam, a useful product. But now, there used to be a market for this, all these recyclables, where we got money back. Now we have to pay to get rid of it. What happens to all this? Now, I understand that China doesn't hardly take it anymore. Where does it all end up?
Well, that's a really good question, and I have an answer for that. So in 2017, China stopped taking the United States recyclables. It was too dirty. People, wish cycling. They would put things in there that shouldn't be in there. They weren't cleaning it correctly. And so there was a real free fall for the market for recyclables. Since then, and even if you look at this year, all of the recycling that we generate at the transfer station, and then also the recycling that would be tipped at the community eco power plant through their contract with Pittsfield, would go to what's called the Springfield MRF, Materials Recycling Facility. And it's a facility that's owned by Mass DEP, so state of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it's managed by Waste Management. And what they do there is they sort the recycling and find markets for it. And what we have seen just in the last fiscal year is, I think we started out the fiscal year paying $70 per ton to tip our recycling from the transfer station at the Springfield MRF, right? And if you were to look at a graph, the market value for those recycling have gone steadily up. So right now, we're paying Casella, through our contract, is paying $14 per ton to tip the recycling versus $70 at the beginning of this fiscal year. So as recycling gets cleaner, and a lot of these educational campaigns are happening in the municipalities, the quality and value of those recyclings is going up. Now that's dealing with the Springfield MRF. Right now, haulers don't have anywhere in Berkshire County to tip their recycling, their commercial recycling. And so instead, they're having to go to New York State, they're having to go to Vermont, and we're not sure what happens to those recyclables, but we know that through the process that we're committed to providing the haulers, which is either tipping at the Pittsfield, through Pittsfield at the community eco power, or through retrofitting and working with Casella so that they can tip at our recycling center, that those materials will be recycled. They've only had 2 waivers, I think, in recent history through the MRF, and so so I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I toured that once when I worked for Cranes, and it's quite the place, let me tell you. So, and there was
It really is, and they've just got.
There was also another one that took pallets and made mulch out of them. So.
And they keep buying more and more equipment so that the quality, they're able to sort and get the recycling material to a point where they're really getting a lot of value of it. And it's not unheard of that we might at some point be paid for the recycling again. And we've come a long way just even in the last year.
Well, that's good.
So Jane, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is there a recommendation as far as the recycling regulations to delay that a year, or is there a timeline on that, or just kind of delay it as a TBD, and once the whole program is ready to come back and then start it up again? What's that recommendation so we can clarify the bylaw start date?
So, for the hauler regulation piece, which is chapter 604 regulation, it's a Board of Health regulation. We're going to reach out to DEP probably this week and ask them for an extension. At least, we had talked about at the Board of Health having it be at least, 2 or 3 months. We need to get a date certain for these haulers. Some of them have already invested, and so I think that most of the energy is going to be around getting the transfer station up and ready, because that $151 plus fee, so essentially an extra $155 a ton that they would be looking at tipping at CEP. When we found that out about a month and a half ago, no one saw it coming, and it just put everything way out in the realm. And so I believe that the haulers are going to put together letters saying that between the labor shortage and the additional $155 a ton from CEP, that they were not going to be able to. So to answer your question, we're moving as fast as we can. And if DEP decides that they don't want to give us the grant, it's not a huge grant. What it did allow us is a mechanism to be competitive as an employer, which does not exist, which that framework does not exist currently within the town of Dalton for us to be a competitive employer for this position.
Sorry, I might have crossed. There's another bylaw that went into effect or was voted 2 years ago about recycling requirement for residents of Dalton and a fine structure.
Yes. So yes, that's implemented. That's a state, the waste bans, everyone in Massachusetts is required to recycle right now. So that is in effect. I will tell you that we are taking the approach of grant or no grant. We're taking the approach of educating and using things like oops tax. Mary Stuckland was out at the transfer station on Saturday, handed out, I think, 50 bins. We are ordering more bins and are going to just take a very positive approach to that. So we will not anticipate seeing fines issued for generators at this time.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Jane.
Oh, no, and I was going to say, and that's all I have to say about that. Just kidding. Anyone can call me with questions. It's really, we put a lot of effort in, and my concern is that we have so much work to do in the next year. We're going to look at the contract, what we're doing with our solid waste, our transfer facility. There's some really great ideas. Some of them are pretty innovative. And, we really want to get that sticker price down. We want to get the cost of the bags down. And there's a lot of money that could be applied for that actually would dovetail into what we have the capacity to do. But the hard part is we need someone competent to do it. And it's not that I'm saying I'm not competent, but I am saying that the Board of Health has a lot on their plate right now.
Yeah, agreed, and thank you for your leadership on that and that of everybody on the Board of Health, and our Waste Management Committee, so great work around the board. Any other discussion from any board members, or Ms. Hutchison, any questions?
I just have one comment. Now, Jane, is 2 to 3 months going to be enough time, or wouldn't we want to take a more cautious approach to this and make sure we're all set to go and have like a couple dry runs, so it's all set to just go?
Yes, I totally, like the labor shortage isn't going to go away anytime soon, right? So I think that they left that a little bit open. It's going to depend on if it's going to, there's a lot of moving parts, and I think that by the next select board meeting, we'll have a lot more clarity on this. But, if we ask for an extension from DEP, I just think we need to have that dialogue. They might say, they might say, you know, we're out, right? We've given you a year and a half worth of extensions, we're out. And that's fine, right? We want what we do to work for the town of Dalton. And then it will just be trying to figure out a way to keep talented staff. And so that's kind of where we're at. So to answer your question, yes, and the Board of Health is anticipating having a special meeting after we talk to DEP, just to figure out if they tap completely out, meaning if DEP is like, no, we're not giving any more extensions, then we'll make a path forward ahead on that, and then the actual timeframes won't be as relevant.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Jane.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Another great update. If no other discussion or questions, we can move on to number 9, Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes, as you know, you declared a state of emergency on March 16th, 2020. And at this point, I would like to recommend a motion to rescind the state of emergency declared on March 16th, 2020, as of June 15th, 2021, which puts us exactly in sync with the Commonwealth's recension of the state of emergency. And together with that, we can have a rescinding the mask mandate as Jane outlined, with no masks required for vaccinated people and no social distancing. Recommended that it would be recommended that people who have not been vaccinated would wear masks, and that meetings, in-person meetings, were fine, and we would recommend that there be a method for remote listening, at least, to the meetings.
Can I ask a question? What about if a board just wants to stay remote? Is that possible?
That is not going to be possible after June 15th, because the order, it's an executive order that was tied to the state of emergency that allowed this level of remote participation in a meeting. So once that goes away, we're back to the old open meeting law. We have to have a physical quorum that's present after June 15th anyway. What we can do is keep some level of remote participation, which of course the town also has agreed to as a policy, so that not all members have to be present. But a physical quorum will still have to be present for all meetings after June 15th.
But what about it, having people come in for the public that, everybody on the committees pretty much know each other. But what about somebody coming in off the streets or whatever? Nobody knows if they're vaccinated or what. That could be a dangerous situation here.
That is why we would recommend that people without vaccines wear masks. This is what it means to get back to normal, more or less. And that's the situation that we're finding ourselves in. It is interesting that the governor's order does take effect on June 15th, and that after then, it's very clear. They've been very, very clear about after that, the old open meeting law comes back into effect. So all we can do is recommend that people without vaccines wear masks. And, I think we can assume that some will and some won't. Of course, people who are vaccinated may also wear masks. It may become a courteous thing to do if you see someone with a mask to put a mask on. These kind of social norms, I think, will develop as we go along. But in terms of meeting, right now there's nothing we can do to prevent in-person meetings because the order was tied to the state of emergency. Now, there has been legislation filed that would allow this level of remote meeting to occur, but that will not be passed by June 15th. So we could go back to this, you know, if the legislature does pass that as a law. But there will be some pushback, I think, from some people about that as well. So I'm not sure exactly where that's headed or when we could look forward to that.
Personally, I have no objection to meeting in person, but I mean, I'm also sensitive to other people on different committees that have approached me and they're asking to stay remote. So.
Well, as long as there's a quorum of the committee or board physically present, we're fine in Dalton because this board did pass that as a policy some time ago.
Okay.
Chairman, may I add to that?
Go ahead, Jane.
And I believe that there is some legislation coming up through, and it could come anytime, perhaps standing that through September 1st, the ability to have the remote meetings. And Tom and I will certainly keep the board updated if that comes to fruition.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
Sounds like she may have some more up-to-date information.
There's always breaking news coming out of Beacon Hill, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
So I would still recommend that the board rescind its state of emergency.
Yep. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion, a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, just, Mr. Chairman, to embellish Bob's point a little bit, you're concerned about having meetings and somebody could walk in off the street. I mean, the people that are at the meeting that are attended, we have no way of knowing who's been vaccinated or not. Members of the board, I mean, there's just no way you can tell, even if they say they are. But this, here nor there, I guess we got to follow the dictates of the state government and go back to open meetings starting the 15th. I think it'll be welcome, and I agree with you also that yeah, there may be some small committees, but if they wear their mask, practice social distancing, I don't think they should have any problem. And for the record, I am vaccinated.
You were the first one on the board, John.
Yeah. So advantages of being old, huh?
That's the you know, that's a challenge. Yet the hope that everybody is on the honor system, be kind, and just take care of each other along the way. You know, so
Right.
those kinds of things. So absolutely. So there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And now we're going to open up is there a motion to open as a license board?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Mr. Boyle.
Yes.
I'm a yes. And the topic is expansion of liquor license outdoor serving. Mr. Hutchinson.
I don't know if Jane is still on the call and wants to speak to this. I do know, yeah. Jane, did you want to speak to the expansion of the outdoor liquor license and outdoor serving?
Yes, so I believe that, you know, watching the Legion struggle, watching the VFW struggle, and the restaurants are, you know, it's picking up, but people still want to be outside. So I think just as a general rule that it would be beneficial to the businesses to give them the option of serving alcohol outdoors. And I also believe that extending that not just to people who had applied for it at the beginning, But people who, places that were closed, like that you aforementioned places, or organizations, just makes a lot of sense. My one concern with that is that currently, if someone has something outdoors, there is a mode of review. And so I have been unable to determine whether or not if someone wanted to have a live band outside and they were allowed to have the alcohol outside because of this extension, is there any mechanism that they would still have to come before the town so that we don't end up with traffic and or noise complaints? That's my only concern that I have with issuing this through the summer.
Mr. Bishop, Mr. Boyle?
If I can respond to point 2 first. First of all, we haven't had any complaints. Now we've had this outdoor dining. I don't see why the health agent would be concerned about noise and parking of cars. It's kind of a police issue if it should arise. But getting back to the overall thing, I'm somewhat perplexed why the VFW and Legion keep getting mentioned. You have to understand how the licensing system works in Dalton. The VFW and Legion have never had outdoor dining with alcohol service. They have a pavilion out there, both of them, where the pavilion is rented to the general public. And when the public desires to rent it, one of the conditions is that the applicant obtain a one-day liquor license or beer and wine license from the town of Dalton. Now, the town manager for several years has been charged with the responsibility of issuing these licenses. So if the VFW and the Legion at any time of the year have a applicant, they have to go see the town manager. Now, if the town manager has concerns about size of a party, hours of a party, or entertainment, he can make it a condition of the license he issues.
It's my understanding that the license that's granted, even if it's a one-day liquor license,
Yep.
is connected to a map of the establishment. And the map of the establishment is limited. As far as I know, neither of those establishments' maps have outdoor seating in them. Is that your understanding, Jane?
Well, that is, I have my limited understanding. I would say that that's definitely a possibility. What we have had asked of the previous applicants is that they provided, some sort of outline of how they were going to, what area was going to be fenced off. And I think to Mr. Boyle's point, which I think that was actually really helpful. And maybe perhaps the events still have to come through, but, they're also looking at things like possibly having more open to the general public, and this would allow them to be outside. And like have hamburgers and hot dogs on the grill and have people sit outside under the pavilion without having to go through that one-day license process. But it's just up to the board whether or not.
Wait a minute. You're getting some really treacherous territory, Jane. If they want to have the general public come up there and sit at their pavilion and be served alcohol at any time, then they need a change of their license, an extension of premises. And or if they're a club, that may not be allowed to serve the general public. I think the system that's in place now, as poor as it might be, is where and they've pretty much stuck to it. If they have a function, Bob Bishop's going to have a family reunion up there. And they're going to bring beer and wine, which is first of all crazy anyway, because you're not selling anything, but they still make you get a license to sell. because they're trying to protect themselves from a liability point. You go to the town manager, you ask for a license, he can put any condition he wants on it, and he should. And then it has to be okayed by other, I think the police chief, the fire chief, and the building inspector. And that's the system that existed and has worked well for years.
It's a pretty good, Jane and Bob, this is John, this is a great discussion. I have a question. Jane, is the intent here that there's a request for them to open or be allowed for outdoor seating in order to invite the general public, in order to recoup some of the losses during this COVID period, because there's a lot of restaurants that are doing it, and the trends are more and more consumers are enjoying that outdoor experience. When you drive by the VFW, there's a sign that says now open to the public for burgers and dogs, come on in, etc.
They took it down, Joe.
Did they? Okay, so I didn't know.
Yep.
I didn't know what the nature of the ask is, because I agree with Mr. Boyle on the process, but I didn't know if there was another special intent here.
I think that you hit the nail right on the head, Joe, is that the intent is just to give them an option of providing outdoor food service where they can also serve beer and wine. And, you know, I think to John's point of having like actual events come before us, maybe that still happens, but right now their footprint is inside. They have, you know, very sized bars, and they're just trying to figure out how to move forward. I mean, the reason why I keep mentioning them is they weren't up and running when other establishments took advantage of this opportunity that the state has provided to towns that we don't need to, but we may provide this, allow restaurants to have outdoor seating and expand their liquor license to serve alcohol outdoors. Also, you know, the financial hit that they've taken is significant. And so it's just a matter of trying to figure out if there's anything that the town can do to help them, and it's just through November. John is correct that anyone can go through the process of having the outdoor liquor license. I don't know what that process looks like, but I would anticipate it involves money, which is, again, something that is in short supply for some of these places. So,
what if we would consider just kind of staying consistent with the governor and allowing it for, like the Legion of VFW, to do outdoor liquor and food, but not entertainment? Entertainment would be a special license, if you will, or a special consideration. Maybe they want somebody that's an acoustic guitarist or versus karaoke, and whatever the case might be. I don't think we want to go that far, because there's probably other impacts to that. But now, John and Bob, what do you think?
I'm fairly connected to the VFW and Legion for a lot of reasons. And I never heard any intent to expand their licensing service, alcoholic licensing service, from inside the building to outside the building. Say I walk down the street and go sit in the pavilion. Is somebody going to come out and bring me a beer? No. It's always been where you have these functions, I don't know, whatever. And they do have good sized pavilions, both of them. You know, they must seat at least 100. And I've never heard that they would want to deviate. At some points in time, they did express a desire to possibly expand what they call expand your premises.
Yes.
So then you could, yes. So then you would put a bar out in the pavilion, and you would have an employee in charge,
Or
just like the bar was inside.
Or
If they want to do that, they should come in and ask for that. Extension of premises.
that it needn't be that much. It could just be allowing people to take their drink to the pavilion. Because right now, you can only consume alcohol within the premises. So if you take your alcohol to the pavilion, this would cover that.
Well, Tom, I have to disagree with you.
Consumption of alcohol.
Drink outside to a related facility is just that. a good thing to be doing in the alcoholic business
Well,
for a lot of reasons.
I'm just saying that is what this would entail, would be allowing the consumption of alcohol outside of what is currently considered their premises. This would expand their premises to the outdoors. That just clarifying that is what this is, and I have no recommendation one way or the other if that's what you want to do. My understanding had been that this had been something that was meant to assist them, but
Mr. Hutchinson or Jane, do we have a specific request from either one of these establishments to consider this expansion, or is it just something that we're considering as everything else evolves?
So we actually do have a specific request from the VFW and then the Legion, and I had a hard time figuring out who to send the exact form to, and so that's a little bit on me. And Dan Boulier, however you say his name, he did call me right during the Board of Health meeting. We've had a lot of compressed time, some pretty big things happening at the Board of Health level, that didn't get completely through. But to answer John Boyle's question, the reason why this has come up is, a lot of what I do right now is meeting with the different organizations, restaurants, business owners, and, trying to help them navigate how to move forward. And so this was an option that was offered by the state, and so I had mentioned it as a potential for them. And it's not like they're knocking down our door on this, but it just would be one more thing that we could do to help these places. But there are risks that obviously open containers and alcohol. I mean, there's a reason why these laws exist, and so we're just it just was an option available to the town by the state, and I just wanted to bring it before the board.
Can I ask if we should go ahead, Mr. Hutchinson? Sorry.
And it was my understanding that at the time when these options were being taken advantage of by some businesses, both the VFW and American Legion were closed, and so they did not at that point take advantage of what was being offered. So this is also by way of catching them up and making sure that they're able to take advantage of the options that other businesses that were open during that time. That was my understanding.
Yeah, they began to open, I don't know, it was phase 3 or phase 4. If I recall, there was like a food, if you could serve food and alcohol, then you could be open or not, and things like that. But
And therein is the point, Joe. There's the Legion of VFW, and there's now 2 or 3 other bar restaurants in town that do not serve food. And that's why this didn't apply to them, Tom.
yes, I think the outdoor.
You could get alcoholic beverage with food service outside, but neither the VFW Legion or across the street from me had food service, so it didn't apply to them specifically. And now that it's over, we're starting up. They want it to apply to them. Well, a year ago, they came in the selectman's office. They says, "How can we get better control of the pavilion by having control of the alcoholic sales there?" I says, "Apply for an extension of premises." It's a very minor thing. I'm certain the board would okay it, and then you would have the control. You would have your employee running the operation out here. If you have a party of 100 people, you should have somebody in charge for 2 reasons: 1, to control the crowd, and 2, to check IDs. That gets kind of lost in the shuffle too. Well, I just had never had any indication that the VFW or Legion, but it doesn't matter to me. We're pursuing clients inside the bar, being allowed to take the drink and go outside and drink. Anytime.
If I can suggest, and I'm happy if this suggestion is not adopted or accepted, but if I could suggest that we table this and then just do a little bit more outreach and think about if we can extend it, if it is food and if it requires food and liquor, or if we could do liquor only because if they're not serving food. So what does that operation look like? Then reconsider it on the 21st, if possible. That's what members think.
Sounds good to me, Joe.
Yes, fine with me.
Mr. Hutchinson, you okay with that idea?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I think that'd be extremely helpful, because if it's liquor only, then it may not, I don't know, the terms of the legislation may not apply, I don't know, so.
Well, it's a simple thing of them asking for expansion of their license. They can have that before the board, before the 21st.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you're so right, Bob. And they came in and they talked to Judy about it, and she talked to me, they just applied for expansion of premises. This was back before even COVID-19 came along. And they get all the information. I said, just go online, download the application, submit it to the board. I'm certain the board was, and it would be good for your post, because then you're in control of the liquor sales.
Absolutely.
And they ran into internal politics down at the BFW. They didn't want to change their ways. They felt if they make people get their separate license, they get away from the liability that comes with liquor service, which is not true, because if somebody acquires liquor on your premises and he goes and runs somebody over, you're responsible. And that would be their best bet, but.
Yeah.
So if my table is accepted, let's go ahead and table it until the 21st.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we table it to the 21st.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And Jane and Mr. Hutchinson, thank you so much for that discussion, and we want to do the right thing for those establishments in the town.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to motion to close this license board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, roll call vote, Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. Moving on to number 11, the Juneteenth holiday clarification. Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes, sorry to have to bring this back, but some of the language that was used in the discussion and the understanding, I think was unfortunate and there was some misunderstanding of what was being proposed. In my opinion, and I think the opinion of the board, Juneteenth should be treated as any other state holiday that falls on a particular day, such as Christmas. That is, town offices will be closed and anyone scheduled to work that day will have the day off. If the holiday falls on a Sunday, per state law, town offices would be closed on the following Monday. And if it falls on a Saturday, according to town policy, town offices will be closed the preceding Friday. So I'm just asking that it be treated as any other holiday that falls on a particular day. I think the confusion arose, if someone is not scheduled to work on that day, they still get credited with a holiday. Otherwise it would be unfair, and they wouldn't get the same benefit as other people, which they would be allowed to take on a subsequent day. So if we can just have the clarification that Juneteenth is treated the same as any other holiday the town offers that falls on a particular day, we can avoid any issues of fairness that might lead to complaints or grievances. If that is the understanding of the board, then we can move. I can just move ahead administratively.
That was always my understanding.
So that was my understanding also, Tom.
There was some language used that I think didn't help clarify things. But I think if I put it that way, everyone can agree.
Right. And you as the town manager should have the right to take care of that, so.
Is there a motion to accept the clarification?
So moved.
Thank you.
Motion a second, discussion. And then, Mr. Hutchinson, any employees such as police officers, if they're on that holiday, they get their holiday pay, whatever that is in their contract, or whatever we do with every other holiday, right?
Treated exactly the same as any other state holiday that falls on a particular day, yes.
Great. Any other discussion?
Now, the town employees now have a total of 13 holidays. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And thank you, Mr. Hutchinson, for that clarification.
Thank you all.
Next is Colonial Power group update. They've been waiting patiently in the wings here, so looking forward to the conversation. So, Mr. Hutchinson.
Well, I'd just like to introduce Mark Capadona and Denise Allard, and I think there's someone else on the call from Colonial Power who I haven't met. So I don't know that I can make a good introduction. Stuart Ormsby. They're here to tell you about something that won't cost the town any money and might do some town residents a lot of good. And they're willing to do all the work. So please welcome Mark and Denise and Stuart, and go ahead and present the program.
Thank you. Mark Capadona, 5 Mount Royal Ave, Marlborough, Mass. I'm with Colonial Power. Denise.
Hi, Denise Allard, also with Colonial Power.
And Stuart Ormsby with Colonial Power.
And Mark, just to let you know, you're coming in a little bit soft on your mic, so I'm not sure if it's...
All right, I'm going to turn it up. Let me know if that's better.
Okay. Yeah.
Excellent. So what we're here to speak about tonight is kind of it's the first of its kind, and just let me explain. Lots of people are doing this. So you have a municipal aggregation program. Your municipal aggregation program has a rate of 9.6. It has a little bit more green energy in it, local green energy in it. It's going to be a very good rate for the next 3 years. That being said, there's been the Colonial Power Group is working with the DOER as part of their SMART program to create additionality, more solar, and get benefits to low-income customers. And they're doing that through municipal aggregation. So they've been trying to get these benefits in the hands of the low-income customers for quite some time. Since we've been talking to them, we know who all your low-income customers are in Dalton, because you have a municipal aggregation. So we know exactly where those customers are and who they are, so we can deliver those benefits to them. So we've been working with solar developers to deliver a 2-cent discount to the low-income customers to create new solar development. And this is what's so unique about the town of Dalton. There happens to be a solar developer that I was working with, happens to have a project at 401 South Street in Dalton that matches up almost identically with your needs. So for the first time in anyone's, that we've been doing this, the project actually is located there. So not only will the project be located there, meaning there'll be some jobs there, but the power will flow there, plus benefits will flow to the low-income residents in Dalton. What does it mean for the select board, and what is it you need to do? So it is a SMART project, so there are a couple of small hooks, meaning it takes a 20-year commitment. We have to tell the solar developer, we're going to commit for the 20 years. We're going to take that discount power and deliver it to the low-income customer. The low-income customer doesn't need to do anything. They'll receive a mailing, be notified that their rate will be dropping. They could opt out if they wished, but they don't need to do anything to get that discount. So there's one other, as I mentioned, a couple of hooks. We've currently, and why I'm still a little bit perplexed, we've got held up at the Department of Public Utilities. They wanted to further review the program. Why this is, we're not certain, because we're creating additionality and delivering the benefit to the customer that's been left out of this for years. But for whatever reason, as of right now, we're on kind of hold. What we're trying to do is get commitments out of communities that would like to do something like this for their residents. If so, we have some documentation that would sign, an MOU that we'd like you to sign. If that MOU is signed, this project can get financing under the program so that they would qualify for the low-income adder. And truly, that's it. We're going to take care of all the pieces of it, meaning make sure every customer that's an R2 customer, residential assistance or low income, is getting that discount. And like I said, your current rate is 9603 until January of 2024. Now, depending on when we're able to get over this DPU hurdle and the project gets built, we would be able to deliver to the low-income customer. They would be paying 7.6 cents. And this is not my, the DPU is saying the average low-income customer across the state pays 15.2. That would be a 50% discount to the low-income customers in Dalton. Now, that's the 20,000 foot level. I'm happy to go into all the details, but if that's enough, then that's what I happen to know Mr. Hutchinson from a past life, and he's worked through this program with me one other time, so he has actually a full complement of the program as well, but I'm here to answer any questions anyone might have about what it means to people and so forth. But that's it in a nutshell as far as we're going to try to build something in Dalton that's under the SMART program and deliver those benefits to the customers in Dalton.
Before South Street's the industrial park area, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick question for you, Mark.
Yeah.
Does the low income include our housing developments like River Run and the Dalton Housing Authority?
Normally, it does not. They normally have their own contract, sir. So they may have their own contract, and they may already be getting this discount from a prior SREC 1 or SREC 2.
Okay. And how many people in Dalton will this affect? Do you have a clue?
I actually do, and
About 250, I think.
250, how about 251?
In all honesty, it's one of the things that we're hoping that this might bring around is just education around, you can apply to become a low-income customer. You'd be surprised at how high the income levels are, and it has more to do with being retired and possibly where you're at now wasn't where when you applied, and you would start to receive these discounts. And the discount, I just want to make this known, this discount is going to come on top of the current discount that they already get of 36% off the total bill.
This is anyone who has an R2. Oh, sorry, it's an R2 on their EverSource. No.
Okay, is there any information that would lead people to educate people if they qualify for this? Or that's like, does it automatically kick in? But if you're kind of like inquisitive, because I know quite a few retired people, and they may want to explore some options here.
So on the EverSource site, there's a residential assistance a form that you can fill out. If you need that form, I'm happy to print it out. Maybe people don't have access to the internet. I'm happy to send that over. They can physically fill it out and send it in. There are certain things, programs that you're already receiving that you would automatically qualify. If somebody didn't realize that they had this discount available to them and they were getting SNAP or something of that, or some of that help, that automatically qualifies them, and they would start to receive first the 36% off the total bill. And if they join the program, they would also get this other, what yours is just over 20%, 2 cents off 9 is, just probably 23, 24%.
Yeah, if you could send one of them forms over to the town hall, we could print some off and keep them there, and people can come in and pick them up. That'd be great.
Yeah, I was going to ask if we approve this as well, that Colonial Power could help us with a one-pager marketing document that we could put on our website for our residents and share with other forums as well.
Absolutely, Mr. Grabber, just so you know, before we get there, we could be a few months or maybe even 6 before the DPU gets around. We're very busy. But
on that one.
every single person is going to, before we switch any rates that is involved, is going to get an individual piece of mail notifying of that, as well as we're going to be updating the current site that we have as well as your site. So it's all the information required.
And if we time that correctly, then we can get the communication out, because there's a lot of spam and a lot of issues happening around, and a lot of concern about privacy and safety, especially for our seniors. So I'd like to get more, to Bob's point, I'd like to get more low-income residents aware of the program to know that they have that benefit. And the other question I had, and I don't know the rules or regs in this, I'm just asking, is there a way to tie in any other non-profits, or does it just low-income residents? I'm thinking church or schools, town, or the different programs.
This program, for it to work, you need it to be low income. That's how they're paying the benefit. They're trying to get the power in the hands of these people, this customer class, actually.
Yep, understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hutchinson, is there a recommendation, or Mr. Boyle, do you have any? I see you're on mute, but, oh, Mr. Boyle, you're on mute. You're on mute, Mr. Boyle. Try again. Mr. Hutchinson, can you help him out with that, unmute?
I don't believe I can unmute someone. I can ask them to unmute.
There you go.
There you go, John.
Megan, just one quick question, Mark. Is there any provision in this program for veterans?
Unfortunately, right now, there is not. I can look into it because only half the power needs to go to the low-income customer. This project matched up for 100% of their power to match up with what your current low-income load was. But if we had excess, we could certainly look into delivering it to other customers, because they only need half of it to go to the low-income customer base. The rest of it can go somewhere else.
Thank you.
It could.
How does this impact any other projects we may have for solar related to low-income residents?
This will not impact, there is no impact. If you already had a solar array, your low income, budget billing, all of those things, Mr. Driver, that's going to stay in place. This is just an extra benefit for your municipal aggregation, your what I'll call residential assistant aggregation customers. Just an added bonus.
Okay. Mr. Bishop, Mr. Boyle, any other discussion? I'm going to turn to Mr. Hutchinson for recommendation.
I'm good.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll recommend that the board approve this this proposal and sign the memorandum of understanding.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Yeah.
Okay, motion and second. Any additional discussion? Before we vote, Denise or Stuart, anything to add? You've been waiting there patiently, so.
No, I think Mark covered it.
Yeah, Mark covered it.
Okay, great. Some further discussion, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a good night.
Hey, guys.
Be cool.
Moving to number 13, the resolution for a donation. Mr. Hutchinson?
The town received a donation of $250 from someone who had fine feelings for the town, who now lives in California, and the recommendation is to accept that donation. It is for general purposes, and he said it. So the resolution to, I don't know if you want me to read the resolution of the select board authorizing the acceptance of a donation.
Sure, go right ahead.
Whereas the town of Dalton has received a donation from Robert Capel from California. Whereas the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A empowers the Select Board to approve the acceptance of grants or donation by any officer or department on behalf of the town. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the Select Board, the Select Board does hereby approve of the acceptance of said donation in the amount of $250. Subsection 1, any amount so received shall be deposited with the town treasurer and held as a separate account, and may be expended as aforesaid by the town of Dalton without further appropriation. 2, a copy of this resolution shall be transmitted to the town manager, town treasurer, and town accountant. And 3, Robert Capel will be recognized for his donation, and the town shall send a letter expressing these sentiments.
Okay, I make the motion, we accept the $250 donation from Robert Capel to the town general funds.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And thank you, Mr. Capel in California, and thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Arkinson. If you could send a letter of gratitude, that would be wonderful. Number 14, approval of a 5K race on July 4th.
The Berkshire Running Center is, I gather, once again, running a 5K race and is looking for a location and has proposed bringing their race to Dalton. They would start at Wacona High School and go out on Old Windsor Road to a right turn on Orchard Street, then a right onto 8A to Cleveland Road, and then turn back and follow the same route going back to the school. The police chief has reviewed this, is familiar with the race and the organizers, and has no problems with this proposed route. So I would recommend that the select board approve the race, the 5K race as proposed by the Berkshire Running Center on July 4th.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And I think we should have Mark and Dan represent the select board in that 5K race. What do you guys think? Since they're not, sure, put them in the race.
I'll
That's
drive.
awesome. It'd be a great event for the town too, to have all those folks here. So, let's see. Sorry, I just lost my spot. Number 15, departmental transfer.
Mr. Chair, we have a request for a transfer of $6,000 from account number 192, that's building maintenance salaries, into account number 157, computer maintenance expense, which has a negative present balance. There was a tremendous amount of computer work that was required to get the town through the pandemic, and this represents those additional costs. And costs still to be billed to the town in the rest of the fiscal year. The reason that there's money left over in the 192 salaries account is that the building maintenance manager has not, superintendent has not yet hired an assistant. So there's money for an assistant which is not being used. And therefore I would recommend transferring $6,000 from account number 192, building maintenance salaries, to 157, computer maintenance expense.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Yep. I make a motion, we transfer $6,000 from budget 192, buildings and grounds assistant salaries, to item number 157, computer maintenance expense.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, quick question, Tom. You mentioned the building superintendent hasn't filled his assistant position yet. Now, this assistant used to be coupled with another employee who worked four hours a day at the town garage and 4 hours a day for the superintendent. Now, it's my understanding that at our last meeting from Mr. Ruffley, that now the individual over there works full-time for Mr. Ruffley, is an employee either at the brush pile or doing maintenance, labor work. So now this position of assistant building superintendent, is that now a 4 hour a day or a 20 hour, 16 hour a day a week position?
all I can say is that the account has $15,000 in it. And I think you could back that down into how many hours that would be at, say, a minimum wage rate. And I don't know if, I noticed that we also have on the call the town accountant who may have more information about that. I do not know the number of hours that assistant is scheduled to work at this point. But the salary is $15,000, or that the present balance in that account is $15,000.
Yeah, but that's for this year.
Yeah.
What's budgeted for next year?
I don't know that there was any change in that. And I'm afraid I'm out of the office and I don't have the FY22 budget.
Hey, it's okay.
I can answer to that if you'd like. This is Pat Bennett. I can answer to some of that.
Yeah, okay, Pat, thanks.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there is a 2% increase to that $15,000 salary, and it's for a part-time person up to 20 hours a week. And that was discussed probably about a year ago with John and the previous town manager, that I would bring on a part-time person and John would keep a person over there for himself. So
Okay.
hopefully that clarifies that.
Yep, thank you. So you're looking to hire somebody as your assistant for 20 hours a week.
Yes, and through the pandemic, we froze the hiring due to keep the amount of people down inside the building.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
Cindy, just check with you. I saw you digging for papers. Are you anything to add to the conversation, or are you good? No.
I am good, and it is 20 hours. And the increase over FY21 is the 2% increase that everybody got.
Yep.
So it's a total of $15,399.
Thank you, Cindy.
Because it's 20 hours, it's a benefited position.
I think it's up to 20 hours, and that would keep it from being a benefited position, from what I heard from Pat.
So it
Well, I think we should clarify this.
20 hours is a benefited position, so
Well, if
could be 19 hours.
If I may, we're kind of getting off the agenda topic of the budget transfer. If we can probably talk about this position next agenda.
Sure.
I'm just trying to think of that instructions because the topic is the transfer from the salaries to the computer maintenance budget.
When are you going to talk about it, Joe?
I don't know if we need to go deeper into that position if we want to have a different agenda topic because we're not really talking about funding the position or anything.
No, but it's related and it's important. I mean, there seems to be a difference of opinion about if this is going to be a benefited position or not.
Yeah, but we don't have on the agenda to talk about the position.
Right? I agree.
Okay. If we need to follow up with that, we can certainly do it for a future agenda, and we can, table it to the 21st if we need to. But.
I'll try to get an email out to people clarifying that. And Pat, I hope you can talk with me about that this week sometime.
So we have a motion and a second on the transfer of $6,000 from the building and ground salaries 192 to the computer maintenance expense 157. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Bishop?
Yes.
None, yes. Thank you. Going to the next one, approval of 1 week additional vacation payout. Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes, Mr. Chair. On April 12th, at a meeting of the Select Board, the board voted for the town accountant to be compensated for 2 weeks of unused vacation to carry over any remaining vacation. And she is now asking to be paid out an additional week of vacation due to time constraints and her workload. She would like that payout together with the 2 weeks unused vacation she'd like 2 weeks to be paid out at the town manager rate for a total of $4,000, and the third week to be paid out at the town accountant rate for a total of $1,118.88. And I would recommend that the board approve that additional week of vacation time to be paid out at the town accountant rate.
Is there a motion to accept the recommendation?
So moved.
There's
Second.
motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
None yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have an additional request for the payout of vacation time. I don't know whether you want to cover that now or whether that should be tabled until next time. There's a request for a payout of 4 days of vacation time.
I think we covered this. We can cover it now. Any objection?
No.
Okay.
This is a payout of the administrative assistant for the police department, who has requested to take a payout of her of 4 days of her vacation time.
The recommendation.
Yep.
And that is my recommendation, absolutely.
Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
And motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
None yes. And then, when the 17, discussion of private roads.
Yes, you'd asked me to look into how many roads are private and not being maintained by the town. I have to say, with the current exception of River Street, which is was apparently plowed, though its condition makes it difficult for the town to plow. The private roads that I have listed are Adams Road, Brayburn Road, Charles Street, Home Terrace, Johnson Place, Justin Way, Library Square, Melissa Way, Mitchell Place, Mobile Terrace, Model Farm Road, Park Terrace, Pioneer Street, Red Barn Road, Reservoir Road, Taunton Terrace, and finally River Street. I'll notice that the Mobile Terrace, I believe, is the one going up towards Wacona Falls. There are actually a network of roads there that are private roads that the town does not maintain, though I gather a number of people live there. So a number of these were covered in a select board vote some time ago, but River Street was not on that list apparently, and the town did plow it, but it is not being maintained by the residents, and that makes that causes difficulty for the town plowing equipment. The highway superintendent had been in favor of not continuing plowing, and I'm not sure why it is being treated differently from other, from say the mobile park, but apparently it was just it was missed in that vote of a couple decades ago. So those are quite a number of private roads, and there is one that is now not like the others. So I just have that as a report because the board asked me to get back with a list of private roads, so you have some idea of how many there were and what they were like. So I'm not sure where we want to go with that, but I do know that it will be difficult for the town to continue plowing River Street if it is not maintained. And I would be hesitant to ask the town to start maintaining these private roads as well, because we know we have enough on our plate trying to keep the roads we currently have in good shape.
Any questions from the board? I have some, but I'll pause until all the board members are able to ask.
I'm not even sure what we're doing here. I just don't understand this. Private roads, public roads, driveways, there's all kinds of different things mixed in here. What are we trying to ferret out here and address it?
From my point of view, a question I had is, what is our, I don't want to say position, but what's the policy on these private roads and the maintenance of these roads? Because some of these roads that we get a number of complaints on them, whether it be Johnson Road or Bob, some of the ones that you looked at, got the calls on. So it's really just an understanding of I guess, what our responsibility as a town. Number two would be, what can residents do to get their roads approved as an official road of the town to be maintained, whatever the case might be, and then go from there. I think those are my questions, and I know that on our master plan, I think it was Johnson Road, if I'm not mistaken, was slated to be paved in calendar year 14, or at least targeted to.
Yeah.
I don't know what the story is there. So that's why I want to get clarification. I would like to get clarification of what our policy is on these roads. What's the expectation our residents have of service or no service on these roads, and make it very clear.
Well, Joe, I mean, going by past policy and votes by the board, all the aforementioned, and there's other ones too, there's Crane Place, Graylock Terrace, etc. They were basically driveways that the town was plowing and maintaining, so that you wanted to stop that. And there was a lot of bitching and crying from people whose we weren't plowing their driveways anymore. But they got over it. Now, some of the streets in that list are on private property, such as the the Mobile Home Park. There's 3 or 4 little streets up there. They're maintained by the owner, plowed by the owner of the trailer park, Mr. Michael Deep. And some of those streets on there are in the condominium project formerly known as the Burger Farm. Again, a private entity.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like little groupings of these. And then there's streets that are just nothing but driveways, like Charles Street, just nothing but a driveway. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, can I just clarify something real quick?
Hold on, John, let Mr. Boyle finish.
Okay, all right, I didn't know he was.
Okay, I was just gonna, my recollection of what here happened on River Run. There's a street, I mean, not River Run, River Street. It starts off of Main Street by the post office, goes southerly for a couple, 300, 400 feet, then takes a sharp left-hand turn, goes up behind the old mobile station. There's 3 or 4 houses up in there. On the left going in, there's like 16 or 18 apartments. These apartments are part of River Run. River Run, when it was built initially, bought the building, the old woolen mill or whatever it was, converted it to elderly housing. Then they bought up the neighborhood, which was an old row house. And I think when they bought up that row house, they bought something that says they own the street, and that in front of the row house. It's a not illegal problem. So that's the part that isn't getting maintained. And as I suggested to the town manager, and I'm sure John Ruffy's got a better solution, you should send a letter to the folk, and it's a non-profit, for-profit group that owns River Run, and tell them that if you don't fix up this portion of River Run, which you claim is yours, then we're going to stop maintaining it and plowing it. And see what they say. Now, I'm sure John can add a lot more to that.
Go ahead, John. John, you're on mute. There you go.
Okay, yeah, I didn't really have much to say about River Street, but I can comment that that we should reach out to the developer there and see what their intentions are. I know Ken and I did some years back, and they were under the assumption the town still owned the private road, and they said they weren't going to maintain it or pave it. So what they did was they paved all around it and just left that one strip unpaved and said it's the town's problem. So I think there definitely has to be some research on that to see who owns what as far as what's in front of the row houses. And then when you take the left to go up and back, as John was saying, the dirt part, that, again, that is a private, I don't know, you know, if that was ever considered River Street. I guess it is called River Street, but that's definitely also a private way. And again, I don't know, there's 3 residents, maybe 4 residents up there. I guess maybe they would have to get a letter too, or definitely need research for River Street, I guess, bottom line there. And then I just wanted to clarify Johnson Road. Johnson Road is a town road. Johnson Place is a private way. So I just wanted to clarify that. It sounded like you guys might have been saying Johnson Road was private, but there is a Johnson Road and a Johnson Place.
Is Johnson Road the dirt road?
Yeah, Johnson Road's a dirt, well, actually they're both dirt, but Johnson Place is off of Depot Street. That's just a small street with 2 houses. And then Johnson Road is up past Wacona on the lot.
Yeah.
And that's a town road.
Okay, and that was in our master plan for paving C-Lot 14.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so I guess that's one road that we get those complaints on. So that's a road that we do maintain, so that's clear. Okay, that's helpful. And then figure out what the paving strategy is down the road.
So the problem there, we really looked into paving it, and then the question came up, well, if we're gonna pave the road, we should look at the rest of the infrastructure. There's no sewer on the road, but there could be access. There is access to sewer, so why would we, the questions that were raised was, why would we just pave the road without adding the utilities to it for these residents? So that's, again, that's just something else that should be looked at extensively rather than just saying we're going to go pave it.
John, has anybody ever considered submitting this to the MPO for possible funding? Because basically it connects 2 major thoroughfares.
Yeah, it does, but it's, I don't think anybody's ever tried, but I know I have a map of the streets in Dalton that are eligible for the TIP, and it's not one of them.
What about Orchard Road?
It could be, Orchard is, any road with a school on it is eligible, and then anything connecting directly to the school, to the road. So I can send you that list.
Yeah. Yeah, Orchard Road, not only, well, the school's right around the corner, but also connects 2 state highways. So I think that would definitely be eligible, because it's very similar to the East Housatonic Street project a couple of years ago. So
I like
to think about that.
Yeah, I like to suggest 2 things. I like to suggest that we have, I don't know, let me just pause it. Mr. Hutchinson, do you think it would be appropriate to, because we get some complaints, we don't get complaints from every road or every location, so we don't want to open up a Pandora's box either, so kind of deferring to your guidance on this. The communication to residents that are on these private roads of what our role and responsibility is or is not, and then what theirs is. And then the second, I think, a future agenda, I might be very interested to get a plan around Johnson Road, especially with the town road, and it's in our master plan and what that looks like and what funding strategies we have, you know, with it over this next, let's say, you know, year time frame, if you will, because then if we want to make an investment, then we might have to go to capital request next town meeting next spring. But it seems like an issue that's been out there for a while. Not anybody's fault or anything else of that nature, but it just seems like it bubbles up periodically.
Joe, are you suggesting we send out a letter to all the residents of all the streets we just talked about?
Just thinking through it, John, just thinking through it.
Well, you could like stir up a lot of old animosities about this whole issue, because there was areas where people were very unhappy. I put it out in John will verify this, like Taunton Terrace and Fred Crane's driveway. That's another one. But I honestly think you ought to leave that part alone and concentrate on getting this Johnson Road thing up and running, repaved. Just don't bother, because as I said, some of those streets are in the condo down there at Berger's Farm. They know what their status is. And the Mobile Home Park, they know what their status is. So, I just don't think it's a good idea to be sending out letters to people.
Mr. Bishop, what do you think?
I agree with John. We shouldn't stir it up, but we should have discussions about how they could apply or what they need to do if they want to get their road to be a public road. I do believe they have to petition to get on a public warrant.
Okay.
Well, Bob, yeah, that is an option, but with that option goes, to be accepted as a town street, you have to meet the same criteria as if it was a new built street, like in a subdivision. It has to be accepted, it has to have drainage, certain widths, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, most of those streets that are on that list are not ever going to comply with that. Like, but it's still their option, but petition for it.
Okay.
And I'm happy to do a little bit of work with the assessors to find out what records they have on River Street.
Yeah.
Great.
See, yeah, Tom, that's a great idea. If it shows that those folk that own it, there are a bunch of, if I remember correctly, there are a bunch of big investors in Rhode Island. Again, it's a for-profit thing. If the deed shows that they own the middle of that street when they bought that row house, and that was a good thing, an admirable thing to do. They could have just torn it down, but they fixed it up, and now it's 16 apartments, lower range apartments, and it's good for the town. So, yeah, it's a good idea. See what the assessors got on their map for that area. And the same with, there's, like John roughly said, there's almost two parts. The part that goes down in the southerly direction for, I don't know, 300-400 feet, John, and then takes a sharp left. There's 3 separate dwellings, one family houses up there. And John contended, and he may be right, that that's private property too. So whatever you can find out would be helpful.
Great, so no need for a motion or action, but that was a good update. Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. And I'll hold on the Johnson Road recommendation till we get the future agenda items. So moving to town manager update.
Thank you. The most urgent project remains the asbestos removal, which is preliminary to other renovation work, including updating the phones and IT, since the lines run through the attic. Relocating town hall offices is a logistical challenge. I walked through the bank building next door with Bob Bishop and found it more suitable than I had expected, having room for as many as 5 accessible offices, which would include the town treasurer, town clerk, town collector, and the assessors and their assistants. 2 accessible offices are available for confidential business. The bank building would also be very useful in terms of relocating our computers, according to our IT consultant, due to its proximity. In further news about Highway Department street priorities, as I mentioned last week, the 4 highest priority roads are Orchard Street at $300,000, Crane Street at $80,000, Chamberlain Avenue at $35,000, and Pleasant Street at $291,000. These total $706,000. There are 16 roads at the next highest level of priority. Hemlock Hill Road, Anthony Road, East Street, Kirchner Road, a portion of road off Prospect Street, Gulf Road, John Street, Fox Road, Chalet Road, Washington Mountain Road, Pinecrest Drive, Westview Drive, Frederick Drive, Whippoorwill Lane, Sleepy Hollow Drive, and Dalton Division Road. Dalton Division Road is, of course, on the State Transportation Improvement Program, though I understand construction is now slated for 2026. I'm developing a request for quotes for the engineering on that project. There had been a qualifications-based request for qualifications developed, but I believe we'll be able to get good engineering for substantially less money using the request for quotes process. I've reached a clearer understanding of the sewer situation around between 450 and 475 Housatonic Street, and am working with the highway superintendent to discover exactly where a break in the town sewer main might be. I'll keep you informed about the progress on that, as an imminent real estate transaction hinges on proper utilities in the area. I have written town council to have them start proceeding with the sale of the View Street property. When we're ready to move forward, we can discuss the terms. And that's something that would happen in open session, because it wouldn't affect negotiations. In hiring news, I plan to interview candidates for the town planner position this week, together with Andy Perinick for the planning board and John Boyle representing the DRA and the DDIC. We have a few candidates for the assistant position as well, who I hope to interview next week. For the Citizens Energy Solar proposal, we'll be able to meet on the town side June 22nd to sort through our options. Then we can give the Citizens Energy representative a call and set negotiations in motion. I had a very productive meeting with the CRA and our building superintendent regarding the town bathrooms in the parks. We've tightened up key use procedures and accountability, and I believe all parties are satisfied with the arrangements. That's my update for this week, for this meeting.
As always, I love the detail there, Mr. Hutchinson. It's excellent. Yeah. Any questions for Mr. Hutchinson?
Oh, nice job, Tom.
Excellent. And as always, Mr. Hutchinson, if you ever need any help from the board members, we're here to help you, and always be successful. So.
Thank you. I have asked and will continue to ask.
There you go. Moving on to future agenda items. Mr. Boyle? Ethan?
Hey, nothing off the top of my head, it's summertime.
Yeah, there you go.
Then to get back and relax after the pandemic, so.
Yeah. Mr. Bishop?
Nothing at the moment, Joe.
And the only thing I ask is that we loop back on Johnson Road as some strategy plan or discussion around that at some date in the near future, and Mr. Hutchinson will kind of coordinate on that as far as time goes. So no, I have no specific time in mind, but just add to the list. Okay, there's no other future agenda items. Ms. Hutchinson, do you have any agenda items for future agenda that we should put on the list?
No, I don't. I do have an item not anticipated.
Okay, moving to that, number 20. Items not anticipated 48 hours before the meeting. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, we received a request from the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission that they're going to have to move on before this board's next meeting. So, and we got it after the agenda for this meeting had been posted. And this is money that they're applying for to provide services to the town related to the green community status. And there are a couple of things that I think we would be interested in. They're asking for us to check off what we would be interested in. And the two that I can think of, and the town accountant also also believes we could use help with this. Despite perhaps hiring a town planner soon, it would be helpful to get some assistance on the Green Community Annual Report preparation and assisting in grant application preparation for projects under our Green Community status. So what I would recommend is that this board sign the memorandum of understanding by and between the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission and the town of Dalton for assisting with grant application preparation in an amount not to exceed $1,500 and assisting with annual report preparation in an amount not to exceed $1,500. And again, it's the BRPC that's applying for money to help the towns do this. So they're not asking us to spend this money, they're asking us what projects we would like to work on and how much they think it'll cost.
So Tom, we can just come up there and sign this in the next couple of days and you should be all set.
Yes. Actually, it's the form of it is that there's a single line for the chief executive officer. So if you could authorize the chair to sign for you, then that would be even easier.
Fine with me.
Fine with me.
Is there a motion to accept the recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Roll call vote, Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Thank you very much.
Anything else on that list before 48 hours or 48 hours before?
I have nothing.
Okay. Remarks to the select board. I have a couple, but I'll pause.
I just need one point of clarification. Our next meeting, are we doing it in person in the Callahan Room?
I believe that is possible, doable, and I would recommend it. The Board of Health held a meeting there tonight, in fact.
I thought it was all set for in-person at the senior center.
Yeah, I thought it was the senior center for the 21st.
Right. We can certainly have it there. We've reserved that space.
Okay. Do we have a preference?
I kind of like the senior center, but I'm open.
For the first meeting, it's probably better. It's more space if people can space out a little more.
You're right, Jim Bobby, get spread people out.
Okay. Let's do that. And before I make my comments, I also just want to make one introduction for you, Mr. Hutchinson. I should have done this earlier, but I just want to introduce you to Mr. Parnaz, who's on from the Berkshire Eagle. He covers Dalton news for us. And so, good evening, Larry. Nice to see you tonight, and thank you for joining. I saw Joe Derwin out here earlier from iBerkshire, so they both covered Dalton news very well. Not pretty well, but very well. So thanks again, Larry, for joining. And the only remarks I had is to let residents know, and I think the board members have received this as well, but that website that the Mass DOT asked to post about the roundabout is on our website now, and has a lot of great information on it, and there's an accessible link that takes you through the entire project, and there's also an area to make comments, and those comments are part of DOT's public record for that project. So if residents want to learn more about there's a proposed roundabout and also proposed light signaling changes as well, so they're evaluating two different projects or two different options. And a formal public meeting with Mass DOT will occur later in the fall or early winter, but that will only be available, that posting or that link for Mass DOT will only be active until June 11th. So there's only a few more days to access that information. They made it available, I think it was Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
It was available a while ago.
Was okay. The other is just a congratulations to all the graduates of Dalton, all the college graduates, high school kids stepping up from middle school, going to high school, elementary, going to middle school, and just a shout out to all the teachers and administrators for a successful year, but a very, very challenging year. So glad to see the kids are doing well and the graduation events moving forward. And that's all I had for general remarks. But pause again, anything else, Mr. Hutchinson, anything else you want to add? Okay.
No.
All right, so moving on to announcements. The open meeting law ruling, Division of Open Government recently issued a determination that it is a violation of open meeting law for the chair of a public body to fail at the start of a meeting to identify by name the members of the board who are attending remotely. The OML regulations state at the start of the meeting, the chair shall announce the name of any member who will be participating remotely. This information shall also be recorded in the meeting minutes, 940 CRM 29.10, Section 7B. Failure to announce the name of any member participating remotely is a violation of the law. The new hours for compost and brush area, these continue to be the hours Tuesday through Wednesday, 2 to 5, Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Message from the police department. The police department is open to the public. The Dalton Police Department lobby is open to the public. Please feel free to stop in and see an officer. Social distancing and mask are required, and only 2 people allowed in the lobby at a time. Processing of the firearms permit. The firearm permits are processed between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. by appointment only. Please call 413-684-0300 to schedule your appointment. No walk-ins are being accepted at this time. A check or money order for $100 made payable to the town of Dalton. Renewals over the age of 70 are free. And with that, if I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Boyle.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And everybody, thank you, and good night, Dalton. Appreciate it. Take care.